Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli. Welcome to my October 2019 horoscope report for you. It is my intention with this video to give you what you'll need to make the most of the stars this month. There will be challenges, and I will offer information on how you can make the most of those, and there will be sweet spots, and I will give you dates and all the things that you need to make the most of those. So definitely also check out anniehelpsyou.com for more free resources and all kinds of other things to help you on your starry journey. If you are in resonance with how I teach and you want to learn, then you can also check out at anniehelpsyou.com my astrology apprenticeship program. Definitely go to radicalprayerbook.com to check out my new book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, which is a book of radical prayers and affirmations that will help you create the life of your dreams. It is an Amazon bestseller, and it is a beloved companion to my fellow spiritual seekers, or so I have heard from many people. So what is in the stars for you this month? Hello Sagittarius friends, welcome to my October 2019 horoscope report for you. The month of October is a very interesting month. We have it divided between the first part until around October 12th being the end of that wide open launching pad that started in the middle of August, where we have no personal planet retrogrades or their shadow periods. So we still have some last bits of that energy of more certainty, of launches, of pushing forward, of, as I always call, getting your boat off the island. If you're on a deserted island and you're trying to get it off, you want to do it when the tides are going out. So the tides are continuing to push out until around October 12th. And then we start our slow descent into the energy of Mercury retrograde, which starts October 31st. Then Mercury goes direct November 20th. Then the post-transit shadow period lasts until December 9th. So between around October 12th and around December 9th, we are going to go through, this is everybody, but this is as a special brand of this for Sages, which I'm a Sag as well, that has to do with emotion. So you may notice that every year around the time, like October, November time, things like major transformation occurs. Before I realized this aspect of astrology, because I came to astrology in my late 20s, so I started to notice certain things about different months, like, wow, it seems like things like this always happen in this month, and I had no framework for why. And as I started studying astrology, I started realizing, oh wow, right, well there are gatherings of certain planets in certain areas of the chart, and that affects people in different ways. And for Sagittarius, the energy of Scorpio is like, wow, it can be really challenging. So we'll just say it straight up, right? Because I'm an optimist, and I am going to frame all of this in a positive light, but I'm also honest with you about what things look like. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for us. So when we move into the energies of Scorpio, and do note that even though, yes, technically the sun is in Libra for, most of the month, and those are different energies that tend to roll really well with Sag, we have a lot of Scorpio energy. Venus starts in Scorpio right from the beginning of October. Mercury is going to go into Scorpio, and then eventually the sun gets there. So there is a strong influence of Scorpio in this month, even stronger than the Libra influences. So that's why I'm really centering my discussion around these energies, because they are going to dominate. Sages are not always aware of how they feel about things. Don't get charged to this if you think otherwise. Maybe there are exceptions, but it's just inherent in how energy moves through the sign of Sagittarius and through the energy of Sagittarius. We can think about our feelings and talk about our feelings, but in general, we do a lot to avoid our feelings, including walking, running, exercising, traveling, gathering information, disseminating information, talking, thinking. Sagittarius are super agile physically and mentally, and we really, really thrive in that space. But when it comes time to actually start feeling and like being with the feelings instead of talking about it, and sometimes you can't properly be with a feeling when you're talking about it, and that's difficult because Sagittarius tend to have a stream of consciousness way of sharing. So when the energies get really strong, so October is really going to be this time where feeling our way through things is going to really help us. And again, this doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you know that this is a little bit against your nature, you know, kind of like if you're learning a different language and you're trying to speak the language and it's a little bit awkward, but it's cool because you're learning a language. That's how I liken this. So it's like we get to dwell, really focus, immerse ourselves, have a full immersion in a space of being that's not exactly consistent with how we usually are. So it builds our neuronal pathways in our brain. It helps us to expand our consciousness by moving through life in this way. So there will be lots of opportunities for that. So the energies, I always liken this like between October 12th and October 31st, it's like we're going into a cave. And the amount of sunlight we can see behind us is a lot on October 12th. And then on October 13th and October 14th, you're getting deeper into the cave where at some point you don't see any daylight around you. And that's like moving deeper into yourself. So the majority of October is going to be very much about going deep within yourself. The tides are now coming in between October 12th and December 9th. So even though things may come to you, it's not always the best time for launching unless you have clear intuition or something else isn't going on in your chart that supersedes this. It's more time for gathering in your everything you're working on closer to you and going deep and going internal and getting more quiet, wrapping up loose ends to prepare for the launches that are going to be amazing between December 9th and the beginning of February. And we do want to take very full advantage of the launch points between December 9th and the beginning of February because 2020 is a year of personal planet retrogrades. We have the usual Mercury retrogrades, plus Venus retrograde, plus Mars retrograde. And again, that's not a bad thing. You know, I'm really focused on retrogrades. I have a massive amount of retrograde material, so I'm going to help guide you through. It's an amazing time for lots of things. But one of the things that it's not as great for is trying to push things out really far. That's why we want to try to take advantage of this retrograde and this October, because you want to get your internal work done, wrap up loose ends, find belief systems that are interfering with you moving, you know, going further out in the world. And of course, we're also wrapping up our last bits of Jupiter in our sign. So that's another big thing that's happening now. Okay, so in general, the place where we have the most opportunities this month has to do with our relationships and has to do with our relationship to spirit and our relationship to our sub or unconscious mind. So belief systems that are dictating our behavior, which are also framing our perspectives, which are flavoring our experience, are going to be the center of the transits. Something else that's going on is that the planet Uranus, which has been moving through the 5th house for Sagittarius, so bringing jostling, upset, surprises, exhilaration, excitement into the sector of creativity, children, romance, and also could be like instability and volatility there. That is going to be opposed by all the personal planets that are going to come and make 180-degree angles. So the areas of life that are really brought to life by these aspects in October for Sag has to do with our creative scene, has to do with things involving children, whether it's our own or others, whether it has to do with also romantic relationships, and whether that's the romance within an already set relationship or whether that's like new romantic relationships or other romantic relationships in the absence of a serious relationship. That sector is going to expect a lot of attention there. Then the 11th house, or the energy of Aquarius, as the planets move through and make these oppositions. So this has to do with friendships, friendship circles, your social media, your tribe, your work with organizations, your anything having to do with friendships, acquaintances, what society tells us to do, humanitarian efforts, things like that. There's going to be a lot of shifting, pulling in two different directions for Sagittarius this month. So some practical ways I see this manifest could be friendships, or internet-based work is another thing, can be calling out and having a lot of activity, while your romantic relationship, your creativity, your children, things like that, your personal fun can be calling out for attention as well. So basically, expect surprises with friendships, internet-based things, technology-based things, romance, kids, and creativity. This can be an amazing time to have some surprising, creative, prolific flow. But also you can see some surprising turns in where your creativity is taking you. And Sagittarius are known for being random in general. You know, it's like you never really know what they're going to say or do, right? But this month, more surprises in those realms, especially how you express yourself creatively, can really come out. And this can be wonderful. Okay, so let's see. There are still some major storylines having to do with money and self-sufficiency and having to do with how you're presenting yourself in the world. There are a lot of more details that I want to go into, but in order to go into the level of details that I want to, I need to show you the charts. So I'm going to put the charts on now. I am an astrology teacher, so I do really thrive on not just telling you the energies that I think will be present for you and how you can best use them, but also showing you why and where in the charts. So be prepared for your astrology lesson with the Sag charts now. Okay, so I want to show you some visuals about some of the things we talked about, and then also give you some more information on how I think the energies can manifest for us this month. Some of the things I talk about will be true for all early, middle, and late degree placements, but some of the things I talk about will be specific to one of the sections, early, middle, or late. So let's see where you're at. Early Sagittarius are basically November born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle, around December 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late, December 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. And if you have your moon in Sag or Sag rising, then this is also for you. The moon chart, the sun chart, the rising chart are all windows that we look out of to see our experience. Just as if you have a window that looks out at an apartment building and then another window that opens up to the ocean. Both of those things you see are part of the experience you have of living in that house. So each of the charts similarly show a different viewpoint of the total experience for the month for each individual. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is some lighter, easier to follow pieces. Okay, so as the planets move through Libra, they make kisses to our Sag placements in the form of 60-degree angles. A lot of this happened already from the perspective of the Venus and Mercury. So for early and middle degree placements in September, you had those kisses. But you late degree placements, for the first week or so of the month, you'll be getting kisses still from mostly Venus, but a little boost there at the very end for Mercury. So late degree friends, you've got a little bit of extra time of kisses from these sweet aspects. And then as the sun moves through and makes this beautiful 60-degree angle with all of our placements, so that will really be middle and late degree placements, we'll still in October have those kisses from the sun. So just boosting your placement. We love that. So we definitely have that to look forward to. Remember that 60-degree angles are those of opportunity. Sometimes they bring just little sweet patches, but sometimes I call it the ingredients on the counter aspect, where you have the stuff to make an apple pie in the form of the transits, but if you don't make the pie, then you're like, where's my pie? So sometimes you have to do something with it. So it's not like a trine, where sometimes the trine just delivers a pie to your door randomly. With a 60-degree angle, sometimes you got to do a little work for it or do something to enhance it. So you might have to work a little. All right, now the next thing that I want to get back to is what happens when these placements move into Scorpio? Because they will. Very soon, all of this is going to move in throughout the month. It's going to be a Scorpio fest. When that happens, things get a little bit uncomfortable for Sagittarius, as we talked about, because it moves us into the feeling space. Feeling, deep emotion, intimacy. So a lot of Sages, or people with strong Sag placements, will be the person that if someone hugs them too tightly, they feel like they can't breathe. And that's both energetically or literally. You know, Sag energy doesn't like to be contained and just like left to feel per se, unless you have other placements that supersede this. But Sag, pure Sag energy, wants to be free, wants to talk and think and talk about feelings and go deep into talking about feelings. But when it comes to that actual yucky, uncomfortable thing, what we tend to do instead is go take action, go for a walk, move those long Sag legs, those long, strong Sag legs around and be mobile and, study and learn and gather information. It's what we tend to do, and we thrive on that. So when the planets start going into Scorpio, can get a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm just warning you about that. And also, massive amount of transformation tends to happen at this time. So that is exciting, but that can also be a little stressful. And if you look back to this time of year, every year, what goes on for you? You might notice that things can get a little intense. Sometimes you have a tendency to start new relationships at this time, or have breakups, or have conflicts at this time, especially with your personal relationships, especially the more intimate ones, or like familial ones, where you've got resources and money involved. Because as the planets move into Scorpio, it brings those things up, and it also, these planets will start to crowd in this 12th house. So this hasn't happened as of the beginning here yet, but as we move into October and into November, middle to later degree people, it's going to be staggered for you. You'll be feeling this more in November, and, later, because everything takes longer. So you can see like all these personal planets that are crowded in the 10th house for the late degree person. Those are in the 11th and just getting ready to go in the 11th for the early degree person. And in the middle, you're like scattered right in between. So it's going to take a little longer for all those personal planets to start crowding into the 12th house. But this is a trend of the time of Scorpio, and this is coming. So as the planets move into Scorpio, it gets us deep into feeling, gets us, talking about things involving money, thinking about, wills and taxes and debt and topics like that. And then as that 12th house starts to get crowded, as we talked about, which is coming, your deep unconscious mind is really, really under duress. So the good news is that you can use this for powerful transformation. And for my fellow spiritual seekers, you know what I'm talking about. So you can use this like with hypnosis, psychotherapy. You can use, meditation. You can do night work. Dream time can be especially prominent. You can go deep into your artistic gifts, painting, taking classes on anything artistic or working in those realms. You might find that you get a little bit more reclusive at this time. And some people, Sagittarius sometimes are gregarious. They like to be around people. But you might find at this time of year that you start really wanting to be just with a few close friends, like more focused on deeper connections rather than more greater, like a bigger amount of superficial connections. So you have all that energy brewing at this time. We talked earlier about these Uranus oppositions. As these planets get over to 5 degrees of Scorpio, so all these are moving that way, they're going to lock into an exact mathematical configuration with Uranus, which is 180 degrees, which feels like you're being pulled in 2 different directions, can feel overstimulating, can allow for great breakthroughs. But this period of time, for all early, middle, and late degree placements, will very much bring your personal pursuits, your creativity, either into conflict or into beautiful harmony with like your friendships, your groups, your tribe. So one way I can see this manifesting is, really being drawn to do your personal, quiet, artistic pursuits, but then also being really drawn to connect with your tribe or having community obligations or things like that. So you're kind of being pulled in those different directions. Also, the group and the friendships and the social media and all that could be pulling against your romantic relationship or your stuff with your kids. So just very overstimulating in general. But creativity is very strongly highlighted. So all of this is true for early, middle, and late degree placements, but late degree you also have this added potential of these surprises, jolts, and overstimulation occurring in the home and work sector. So a lot wanting your attention at home and a lot wanting your attention at work. and like an expanding business or increasing work obligations while you also have, the same or expanding home and family obligations. And surprises can also be in store. Some of these surprises will be welcome. They'll be genius solutions. Some of them will be jolts, like money jolts, love jolts, news coming in that's not welcome, things like that. Whenever there are aspects like this, I always recommend getting enough sleep. If you have enough sleep, things can look so different. There's a sweet run of aspects between October 15th and October 25th. So I like those times more, for more smoother things. But in the beginning of the month and the end of the month, especially, just really guard your immune system, really guard your overstimulation, really guard your empathic nature, and just be aware of what's happening here. You might need more grounding at this time. An ongoing theme that's true for all early, middle, and late degree placements is this transiting North Node in a partnership house. So the early degree placements have it in the 8th house. In the middle, you're kind of on the edge there with the 8th and 7th influence. The late degree placements, you have it in the 7th house. But what's true for all of you is that it's in the partnership energy. Well, we're looking at the transiting North Node. The North Node in the chart is your area of highest expression this lifetime. So when we look at the natal chart, we look at the North Node, we see your Dharma, what you're supposed to be doing. When we look at the North Node in transit, it shows us the keys to our highest happiness, where keys in that period of time are being held for us to unlock the mysteries and the puzzles of our highest expression. So for a while, and for a while to come still, there are massive amounts of keys in the relationship sector. So even though Sagittarius are really individual, we like to have our own flow, God help us, but I know I talk about this all the time, it's just true. So in that way we can, have a hard time flowing with other people if the way they're flowing is in the way of what we're trying to do. But there are lots of keys for partnering with other people at this time. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind and have it get like really loud in your head if you're sitting in front of an opportunity where someone's offering you something. They're offering to help you. They're offering to collaborate with you. They're offering to connect with you. It's possible that your intuition is telling you no, and that's why you're not drawn to them. But it's possible that your intimacy blocks are what's driving you to say no to something that could be a key to your highest expression. There's also some major keys within your family life and your home life and your childhood upbringing, and that comes from the North Node in Cancer. That's true for all signs, though. But while we're on the topic of it, getting your home and sacred space established, figuring out what elements are home to you and getting those established, and your surroundings, and then also getting things right within your family unit and your household, those are holding keys to your highest expressions. Your highest expression could be in completely different areas, but somehow those arenas of partnership and family and home are key to you getting on track with your highest expression. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that because I noticed that's going on there. We've got just a little bit longer of Jupiter expanding our sign. If you're a late degree person, then your blessings from Jupiter are getting ready to come. So that's very exciting. So basically anyone from 18 degrees through the rest of the sign, or around December, like starting the second week in December, if that's your birthday, through the rest of the sign, a lot of those Jupiter keys might still be in the works for you. If you have earlier degree Sag placements, then Jupiter will have kissed those as well. But your sun, your moon, your rising, whatever you're watching for, if it's 18 degrees or after, then you have between now and into the beginning of December when you might get some strong smooches from Jupiter. So be looking out for those. Hopefully they'll show up in a big way. They can show up in any area of life, but specifically things involving teaching and learning and international travel and business and publishing and writing and things like that. But also, depending on what placement you're watching for, it can have to do with other areas of your life as well. So overall, I love the aspects of the Libra combinations for Sag this month. Those Scorpio placements are ones that can be deeply transformational, deeply intimacy growing, and at the same time, I recommend, if it's possible, to try to get yourself to a space where you can process emotionally what's going on at that time when the Scorpio planets start coming in. You know, scheduling yourself light, or letting yourself be in a place, a safe space, where as things come up that you can really sit with what's happening instead of glossing through it. Because the more you can sit with it and feel through it and breathe through it, the more you're going to make, lemonade of any lemons that come through any of the challenging aspects. So it's going to be an intense one, but it definitely has a lot of sweet potentials as well. So definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter, which will give you access a month ahead to a written version of the general transit so that you have those dates and all that information for your planning. Definitely, if you're interested in learning more about astrology, you can check out my Astrology Basics and Beyond course. And if you want to go deeper, if you think I go into details in the videos, you should see my Astrology Apprenticeship program. So you can see more about that and my other vocational assistance, including a Creating Successful Online Business course. You can check all of that out at AnnieHelpsYou.com. Definitely go to my husband's website, B.R. Newman, which is IamHelios, IamHelios.com. And definitely pick up my book, Radical Prayer. Transform your life in the world in 28 days. You can go to radicalprayerbook.com or search for Radical Prayer and Annie Botticelli on Amazon. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month.